spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
Darkest times of my life, and then I met Chris, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
So how you doing? How's it going? There was no note or anything? No. I don't know what to do right now.
Welcome to our free show. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to...
Hey everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you've never been here before, I usually do content on Gypsy Rose, but lately I'm trying to venture out and see where else I can do some stuff here. And today I want to talk about a different narcissistic, antisocial psychopath, and his name is Chris Watts. Now, I went down that rabbit hole last night fully because I knew some details, but not all, and now I'm traumatized, so there's that. Even more so. Because I thought Gypsy Rose was a fucking horrible person. Holy shit. But I do love talking about the possum herself, you know. But so many people are talking about everything right now, being that her account was hacked on TikTok and everything, which I don't quite know how to feel about that. I believe that the messages that he leaked are true. It's just because the reason I believe that is because I don't believe that he was into the lore enough to be able to just like make these messages up on his own, you know, and actually sound like Gypsy in the process. Now, I don't know, one of the messages I guess was like some kind of gibberish or whatever the case. I don't know. All I know is that I believe that the messages are real. I totally believe that Gypsy's that dumb to do that. It's a little difficult though for me to believe though that she saw that email and didn't say anything to anybody and just went along and went ahead and filled out the information. I mean, she is that dumb though, so I guess, you know. But I'm conflicted a little bit as to like the hacker's motive or whatever, and then hearing these stories like they said that Ken's dad is Turkish, which is true. He does say that in one of the videos with Gypsy during a live, that his dad is Turkish. But he's also, according to Nina, investment banker, some bigwig in Florida. So she was speculating that he wouldn't put himself in drama like that. But you never know. You never fucking know. You never know if, you know, he's got family in Turkey and was like, yeah, you do this publicity stunt for, you know, and then who's to say that the guy was like, yeah, and didn't just take her account and fuck her anyway, you know? Who knows? But anyways, I'm not talking about that bitch. Son of a bitch. I'm here to talk about the Watts, and he's a fucker. He is a fucker. I don't like that because I keep seeing the videos of the babies and stuff, and it just breaks my heart.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. He reads me books. He ties my shoes. You're a hero. Blue and blue. My daddy, I love you.
Now, as for Chris, this past May, he celebrated his 39th birthday, all by himself. A spokesperson for the prison stated that he received absolutely no special treatments and that he also did not have a single person lined up to visit him on his birthday, which good. His birthdays were once spent with somebody who loved him, right there by his side, his kids, followed by years of babies and happiness, blowing out the birthday candles, his kids probably singing happy birthday to him. And now there's emptiness. There's nothing, which in my opinion is exactly how it should be. And I can't help but wonder if on his birthday he looked at his family's picture that is hanging on his cell wall and wondered for even a single brief moment what that day could have looked like had he never committed such horrific, heinous murders that August day, had that day never happened.
it's hard to talk about a subject like this, but in order for people to be aware of people like this, you gotta listen to the hard facts of the case. With that being said, Chris Watts was not convincing at all during his news interviews at all. In the beginning, I remember I looked at my fiance when he was pleading for his wife and children to come home. I'm like, he did it. He's involved somehow, you know? And it's like, where the fuck do you honestly begin in this story to even figure it out fully of why or how or what, you know? Do we start at the beginning? Is this a learned behavior of his? Because they do say that narcissistic personality disorder can be a learned behavior, or it can be something that you're born with. Same with antisocial personality disorder, which I believe he is a mixture of those two, ultimately making him a psychopath. And I'll tell you why I feel that way here, but it did begin, him and Shanann met each other on Facebook. Apparently, he shot her a DM, slid into those DMs, so he could, fucking asshole. First things first, though, let's talk about some definitions and statistics here. I'm going to show you the definition of what's called narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a mental health condition characterized by a persuasive pattern of grandiosity, a need for admiration and love, and lack of empathy. Sound like anybody else? People with NPD typically exhibit the following traits: grandiosity, which is an inflated sense of self, self-importance, believing that they're superior to other people, and or are deserving of special treatment. Okay, so I mean, that explains Gypsy Rose to a T, we know that. But need for admiration, a constant need for people to be admiring you, obviously. Hi, Bubba. Lack of empathy, difficulty feeling empathy or caring about others' feelings. Interpersonal exploitation, taking advantage of others to achieve their own goals. See, we have a female, Gypsy Rose, that meets all of those, and we also have Chris Watts, who meets every bit of these as well. Arrogance and haughtiness, displaying an arrogant and condescending attitude towards others. Fragile self-esteem, underlying feelings of insecurity and vulnerability that are easily threatened by criticism by others. NPD is a serious condition that can significantly impact an individual's relationships, work, and overall well-being. Here's another definition we should look at. Sociopathy, also known as antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, it is a mental health condition that involves a pattern or disregard for the rights and feelings of others. Now, their lack of empathy, people with ASPD may not understand or care about feelings of other people. Lack of remorse. They may not feel remorse for the things that they've done wrong to others, and they may not regret their behavior. Manipulation. They manipulate or treat others harshly or with cruel indifference. Exploitation. They take advantage of others for their own personal gain. Gee, that sounds so much like Miss Gypsy Rose as well. They're a match made in heaven, I tell you what. Irresponsible behavior. They may consistently show no regard for right and wrong. Now, it states, do they know right from wrong? Yes, but they totally disregard the fact that there are rights and wrongs, Now, it states that sociopathy can be a learned behavior as well, or something that you're born with. Some with ASPD don't realize what they're doing is wrong, if they do. And if they do realize what they're doing is wrong, they don't care. Now, narcissists and sociopaths are actually very similar, and they can exist together at the same time. With Chris Watts, he fits about every definition of all. In fact, we gotta look up one more thing. Psychopathy is a personality disorder characterized by persistent antisocial behavior disorder, emotional coldness, and a lack of empathy or remorse. He's kind of like narcissist and sociopath minded together, and this all forms into psychopathy, typically exhibiting these following traits. Interpersonal traits: charm. They're very charming. They manipulate others with this charm. In fact, like, you never would think that they would do something so heinous. Their shallowness of emotions. They're impulsive and they're aggressive. They have an irresponsible impulsivity and aggression and lack of planning. Antisocial traits: violation of social norms, criminal behavior, and disregard for laws altogether. Now, let's look at how the FBI would profile a killer. One like Chris Watts, let's say. The FBI is behavioral analysis units use psychological research and operational experience to create profiles for criminals. They use a variety of techniques to figure this stuff out. They have like the crime scene categorization, where they must classify whether the crime scene is organized or disorganized, for one. The FBI's crime classification manual includes a third category for serial killers, which means they exhibit both organized and disorganized characteristics. The criminal signature, where the FBI looks for an offender's signature within the scene, which is what they would do to satisfy their psychological needs, so that they set the tone, like, I did it, here's to show that I'm the one that did it, kind of a bragging type thing. Interpersonal and affective traits: the FBI identifies such traits such as superficial charm, lack of remorse, and lack of empathy in serial killers. Then they have threat assessments. The FBI uses fact-based method to determine if someone is a threat and what about and to what extent. Interview strategies: the FBI uses behavioral principles, psychological concepts, and science-based methods to prepare for, conduct, and analyze interviews. So they really are skilled when they go in to interview these people. That's why when the FBI comes at you for a case, they have a 98% winning streak with who they convict. Investigative strategies: the FBI uses behavioral-based recommendations to profile resources and make investigations more effective. The FBI analyzes all party behavior of both the suspect and the victim to really analyze the case, right? They call fathers that unalive their families family annihilators. There's an article, they've referred to it as familicide, according to the University of Albany. Family annihilators, this article is called The Psychological Profiles of Murderous Fathers by Taylor Orthout and research advisor Alan Lazat. In this article, it states that the offenders reflect law-abiding citizens and sufficient husbands and fathers. They don't seem like or look like they would be these awful, horrible people. It's like the wolf in sheep's clothing. For a long time, they waited out. The most relevant criminological theories to familicide: there's Durkheim's Merton's strain theory, Agnew's general strain theory, and developmental or life course theories. Now, I believe when it comes to the case here with Chris Watts, that it is definitely a developmental life course theory to explain why he did what he did.
The Chris Watts murders are even more horrific than you may have realized. Due to the extensive research and interviews and information about Chris Watts' behavior and personality, it's pretty common knowledge that Chris Watts was not only a malignant narcissist, but he was also a psychopath. People with narcissistic personality and with antisocial personality or psychopathy tend to be hallmarked as masters of disguise. Wolves in sheep's clothing, so to speak. And Chris Watts was an absolute master at this. You see, malignant narcissists and psychopaths, they have this emptiness in them. They don't have the ability to feel fear and love and remorse the way that we do. And so they basically spend their lives observing us trying to figure out why we react to things the way we do, how we respond, what fear looks like, what love looks like, and they basically become phenomenally sophisticated posers. Chris Watts was definitely among those who was an incredibly sophisticated poser. He had it down. He was charming, he was funny, he was witty, he had $1 million smile, he was the all-American boy. And a guy like this knows how to charm a woman because he's basically just reenacting all the Disney fairy tales that anybody's ever seen. He's the kind that goes, well, that's how Prince Charming acts, I can be that. It's easy for chameleons like this that don't really have a true human side to just basically go through the motions of your ideal man. And he presented himself to Shanann as her ideal man. She was head over heels in love with him. She was crazy about Chris, as were his 2 little girls, Celeste and Bella. They trusted him with all their hearts. They loved him with all their hearts. And Shanann never knew that she was sleeping beside a monster. He even had Shanann's family fooled. Shanann's brother and father are both quoted as having been shedding tears of joy talking about how Chris was the perfect man and how they couldn't have picked a better husband for Shanann. This level of deception and knowing how hollow and empty Chris really was toward his family makes their demise all the more heartbreaking. Because not only did Chris kill his family who trusted and loved him to the deepest extent, but he killed them in the most personal, up-close way that you can. TikTok isn't a platform where I can go into detail about how he performed these homicides, but I am launching a podcast in 2023. Be on the lookout for that. And the Watts murders is definitely a case that I plan on covering soon.
How it plays out when it comes to family annihilators. Watts apparently had the mistress who allegedly gave Watts an ultimatum the day that he killed his wife and children. Watts allegedly told Shanann about his affair, claiming that he just was not interested in her anymore and he wanted to move on and he was having an affair. But many speculate that that's not the truth, that he never said a word to her and strangled her in her sleep, because her father says that she would have fought back. Shanann's family and friends all say she would have fought back. The other theories involved the father unaliving himself after unaliving the family. But that's because of economic strain, familial incompetence. None of these were a factor when it came to Chris Watts. So that's why I bring up a narcissistic or antisocial personality disorder compared to Watts showing literally no emotion when the news stations were asking him questions. The only time that he happened to break down at all was when he finally realized that he was caught and confessed to the whole thing. Now you've got to bear with me because I've never done a video on Chris Watts before. The story is, with all the details, fairly new to me. So if you've already heard this stuff before, I do apologize. I'm just kind of starting here so that there can be more videos to come analyzing more behaviors and stuff like that, because there's a lot to this case. According to the article on Denver 7 Investigates on denver7.com, Watts was emotionless, unaffected, and scripted. They say that while being interviewed, it was what Watts did not say or do that made him look suspicious. So, I mean, usually the husband is a suspect right away off the bat anyways, but he definitely made it seem very, very odd when they were there and really made the investigators question his behavior. Even the Weld County homicide detective said that getting the husband or father to show any kind of emotion was extremely difficult in the interrogation room. And like I said, he only broke down when he realized he was caught and confessed. So why didn't anyone foresee these behaviors though in Chris beforehand? But like I said, he was, putting on the charm for so long and playing the role that he thought he was supposed to play, because that's a lot of times what people with narcissistic personality disorder and ASPD do, is they will fake how they're supposed to be in life or how they feel that they're supposed to be in order to be okay with in society, because otherwise they would look strange. They would look suspicious about everything they did. So they have to play this part, you know, and eventually it ends up like this. So Chris said, I mean, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles are my life. Please bring her back. I need to see everyone. Now, that just sounds like a very scripted plea, for one. I mean, he places his arms across his chest tightly as if he's trying to take back control. He's trying to feel in control of the situation, but he's clearly not. Another dead giveaway was when Nicole, the best friend Nicole, not the girlfriend, went into the home with the officer, and the officer and her are frantically looking for the family, but Chris is leisurely walking through each room, casually looking around and acting as if none of it mattered. Now, if that was my wife and children or my husband and children, I would be running through the house like a fucking wild woman trying to figure out where they were. Now, I want to play you this phone conversation between Chris Watts and his sister Jamie Watts. Now, this was right after he unalived his family, and they talked to each other casually as if Chris wasn't the one that caused them to even have to go to a funeral, you know? Like, she's just, oh, you look good. Like, that's your nieces and your sister-in-law. Even though they claimed that Shanann had gone to North Carolina and had gotten in an argument with Chris's mom, and she ended up leaving or something like that. She had taken the kids there for 6 weeks, and during that time, Chris Watts was playing Bachelor. He was living it up.
We're going to listen to a phone conversation between Jamie Watts and Chris Watts. Jamie Watts is Chris Watts' sister. Keep in mind that this conversation happened only days after Chris Watts unalived his pregnant wife Shanann and 2 little girls.
Hey.
Hey.
You look good.
You look good too.
I like your hair.
Well, thanks.
Let me see that gray.
It's still there.
My dad told you about the memorial stuff that we did, and
I think she said that Monica was saying that Cece was playing with the CD player.
yeah. Every time, and there was a brand new CD player, right?
Yeah.
Brand new. And every time Jennifer went to sing, like would start skipping. And Monica was like, that is Cece messing with that CD player.
It is.
I think it was during the song that hawk, it just flew over so close. And the hawk looked down on us. It was a pretty amazing little sight.
That's awesome.
And I got 3 awesome pictures. I hope one day I can share them with you. But I took a picture of each, site, and there's a ray of light that's coming through on each picture. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful.
That's awesome.
They're speaking to each other as if Chris had nothing to do with the unaliving of his family. But they're just going to nonchalantly talk about how beautiful the funeral service was. The funeral service that you caused, Chris. This seems like a family that would just sweep everything under the rug. Oh, this family. What's your takeaway from this phone conversation?
Acting like he was a single man. And then she gets home and he decides to really make himself a single man. That is so fucked up. Why can't these men leave their wife and let their wife go on and have happiness elsewhere? Because yes, Shanann was sad right away. She was going to be. That was her husband and the father of her going to be 3 children. And then another sick part. I know I shouldn't tell you guys this, but you probably heard it before. The baby had dispelled from her body when they found her. It's just, how sick does a man have to be to do that? And how is it that we don't see that behavior? We don't notice that until it's too late. It's so awful to me. I try to think about it, to try to bring myself to maybe understand a little bit. I can't understand Gypsy Rose. I can't understand this guy. And with Gypsy Rose and this case as well, there was no abuse like Gypsy claims there was, but there was no abuse. There was no abuse between him and his wife. Just one day he decided he wanted another woman, and it was time to get rid of the family he had so that he could have this new life with the new woman. Sick bastard. Look at this. I got a big cut on my lip. Do you see it? I went, it's so bad. Okay, shut up. I mean, and that leads me to believe kind of, are the narcissistic personality traits and the antisocial personality traits passed on from in his family? Because to actually sit and talk to your brother casually like that right after he unalived your sister-in-law and your nieces and your soon-to-be nephew, to just speak to him so casually and so it seems eerie to me and sick, like, you know. I could never forgive him. I'm sorry, my baby niece, if someone unalived my baby niece, I would be in prison as well for trying to kill who killed my baby niece, is all I'm saying. Then in this next video, Chris is confessing what he did to his own sweet angel babies. Sick fucker. Shoving their poor baby bodies into a hole only as big as a paper plate, breaking Cece's bones on the way in to the oil tank. Like, how? Not only did you unalive these poor babies, but then you are desecrating their bodies after death as if they were nothing to you. It's disgusting. The fact that Cece asked him, "Are you going to do the same thing to me that you did to Mommy and Bella?" right before he did what he did to her. He put the blanket over her face and smothered her to death. And there was also an article that I was reading that had said that Cece was actually still alive when she went into the oil tank. Because Bella didn't have, I believe I have that right, Bella didn't have any of the oil in her airways, but Cece did, I guess. I could be wrong on that. That's alleged, okay? Everything in this video is, my opinion, but he did unalive them, but just gotta put that out there. Save my ass, you understand? And then, in fact, I believe that Shanann and the girls maybe don't believe or don't understand that they're gone and still haunt that house. And also, the house, I believe, because there was the cop that went in his or her body cam, you could hear children's laughter.
That's what happened. Because, me and Shanann, she got home like at 2 o'clock. I felt her get in bed, and I kind of feel her kind of staring around a little bit. I just had a feeling that she knew, like, what was going on. I'm not even going to say I felt like I had to. I just felt like there was already something in my mind that was planned that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning, it was going to happen, and I had no control of it. I woke her up, and it's like, hey, we just gotta talk. Okay. Just like I told her, I don't feel compatible. I don't feel like this is gonna work.
Chris wants to tell her he wants a divorce and he's having an affair. That's the first time that he ever admits to Shanann that there is another woman in the picture, is moments after she got home.
And she's like, I knew there was somebody else, and she's like, never gonna see the kids again, never gonna see them again, get off me, don't hurt me again.
That's when Chris gets on top of his pregnant wife and starts to strangle her.
Strangulation is a very personal form of murdering somebody.
Chris says Shanann didn't say anything. He claims she didn't fight back.
Why do you think she wasn't fighting?
Maybe she was praying. Or the scripture says, don't forgive these people for they do not know what they do. Maybe she was saying that. I don't know what she was saying in her head. Did I know I was going to do that before I got on top of her? It's kind of like I just saw my life just disappearing before my eyes, but it's just like I couldn't let go. It was like somebody else, like if you picture somebody else around you, holding your hands, holding you, keep you from not letting go. And when she was gone, it was just like I didn't know what was going on. I was shaking. I didn't know what had happened.
Shortly after he killed Shanann, he was pulling her off the bed with a bed sheet. And that's when his oldest daughter, Bella, walked in the room and saw what was going on.
What she said? What's wrong? Just
He wrapped up Shanann's body. He took her downstairs to the garage.
Tempted to pick her up and take her down, but I lost grip after a little while. Just had to pull.
Did Bella see you do that? What was Bella saying?
She started crying a little bit. She's like, "What's wrong, Mom?"
And what did you say that time?
She doesn't feel good. She's a smart girl. She didn't know what was going on there.
Bella watched him as he dragged his wife's body down the staircase to his truck. He loads Shanann's body into the back of his truck, and then his 2 daughters alive.
And honestly, like, I try to picture that whole ride, like it's like 45 minutes to an hour ride out there. And it's just like, couldn't I have like saved my girl's life? Couldn't I have done something? Why did I do it? I don't know.
Right.
Like, this is my flesh and blood. This is like what I wanted all my life, was to be a dad, just to have, kids, and they love me, they, all that, and it just nothing made sense.
Clear as day, so I believe the girls are there. Hopefully they're enjoying themselves and, doing what they do. But then Chris Watts also claims that he had some paranormal activity in his cell and said that Celeste was visiting him in his cell. I'm sorry, but those babies don't want shit to do with your ass, motherfucker. If anything, that was probably a demon fucking with you because you are one. I mean, I cried when I first heard that laughter because it kind of like sets in stone that this is an eerie situation. They're gone,
Oh, this is so creepy to me. So this is Chris Watts' house, right? This is the living room area. Tell me why it looks exactly the same now as it did back when they were living in that house. I'm telling you, if a house could talk, what would this house say? Because there's certain things that took place in this house that particular day that he unalived his kids and his wife that we probably will never know. And the things that happened in these 4 walls. And then the fact that he said he carried Shanann down the steps right here. These are the steps that you can see back there, the railing. He carried her down the steps, and he said that at one point he dropped her because she was too heavy and started taking her and pulling her down the steps to the garage. I always wonder, was someone else in the house that day? Like, was someone else there? Was it his mama there, his dad? I don't know. Was someone else, the girlfriend, was someone else in the house that day? Because
and they're such beautiful little angel girls. I just don't understand this case, and when it comes to a child, it is just so awfully heartbreaking that any woman that is a mother just breaks you down, Then after the home has been sold now since the murders, the family that's there now, though, is really, really getting sick of people driving by the home and trying to take pictures of the home and that kind of thing, trying to see apparitions in the windows and stuff like that, which I can understand. They probably are getting very, very annoyed with that, but I probably wouldn't have bought that house if I didn't expect that. You know what I'm saying? Also, side note and off subject a little bit, but there are a bunch of women that are writing to and visiting him in prison. Just like the two idiots, Ken and Ryan, who wrote to Gypsy, and we now are dealing with that fiasco between her and her baby daddy and all that bullshit. I don't get that. Why do you write to a murderer in prison or go visit him and thinking he's attractive? Or do you fantasize about being the next victim or something like that? Is that what it is? That you wish that you were the chosen one to be unalived by this person? Or what is it? Because I don't get it.
I spoke to Chris while he's in prison about once a week.
I visit him about every 2 to 3 weeks.
When Chris talks to me about Shanann, he talks to me about how great she was and how much he loved her. Chris feels like he had a break in reality, like he snapped, like he was demon possessed.
Chris's mom fills us in on what the murderous man is now saying to his parents.
Happy birthday, Mom. 64. I wish I could be there with everyone.
To each their own, though, I guess. But there's also another element to that. There's a man that says that Chris Watts had paid for his Botox in his face and had paid for his lip injections even, and that they frequently spent a lot of time watching Netflix and hanging out at hotels together.
Notorious killer Chris Watts lead a double life as a gay man. 29-year-old Trent Balti claims he met Watts on the dating app Meet Me.
He said he didn't know if he was bisexual or gay.
Balti first came to public attention last August when he spoke anonymously to HLN's Ashley Banfield.
Chris Watts' former lover.
Now he's decided to come forward and let his face be seen. Police took Balti's story seriously and made public this interrogation video.
So we talked about money for sex, how you guys met, the amount of times you guys met. We talked a little bit more about Chris. So I believe you now.
One thing that was written about you is that you're a male escort. Are you a male escort?
No, I am not a male escort.
Balti says he and Watts sometimes got hotel rooms, which Watts paid for. He says Watts also paid for his lip injections.
Did Chris Watts pay for you to have other cosmetic procedures?
He paid for Botox in my forehead and around my eyebrows.
He shared several messages between the two of them. "I miss your face," Watts wrote in this text. Balti said they did what most couples do and watch Netflix together.
We got him into Orange is the New Black.
Did that become one of his favorite shows?
Yeah.
Balti says Watts admitted he had a family, but gave the impression he was separated from his wife, Shanann. Last February, Balti says he was even introduced to Watts' daughters, Bella and Cece, outside a shopping center in Loveland, Colorado.
Cece just talked up a storm. She was one of the happiest little girls I've ever seen. And Bella was very shy.
What was he like with his own kids?
He was very attentive, very loving.
Did they seem scared of him?
No, not at all.
How did they seem?
They seemed very comfortable with him. He was very proud of his daughters.
That night, Balti says he found out Watts was still living with Shanann.
He said that Shanann was verbally and emotionally abusive. I said, "Why don't you just file for divorce?" He said, "I'm just worried that she won't let me see the girls."
Balti says he is haunted by several comments Watts made about his family.
Chris told me it would be ideal if me and him could move to Oregon and take the girls.
He suggested to you that the two of you would pick up his daughters and flee to Oregon?
Yeah.
Did he ever talk about trying to get his wife out of his life?
Yeah, Chris spoke of that a lot.
Once, he says he overheard Shanann yelling at Watts on the phone.
Chris said there's got to be some way to get this effing bee out of my life.
That takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trent says he and Watts finally broke up in early May 2018 after 10 months of dating.
Why did your relationship with Chris end?
I just started seeing through Chris's lies.
Balti says he was shocked to learn that Watts was having a relationship with a coworker, a woman named Nicole Kessinger.
Was Chris Watts seeing you at the same time that he was seeing this woman?
Their relationship was only for 2 months. So at times up, it seems like he got with her right after I ended things in May.
Just 3 days before Watts killed his wife and daughters, Balti says Watts sent him a long text.
Chris said that he was in love with me. He said that he'd never been so comfortable with someone.
When you learned that he was arrested for murdering his wife and children, how did you react?
I got ill. I was in complete shock. I wish I'd never met him.
Chris Watts just wanted what the fuck he wanted, and he didn't give a shit how he got it. I mean, is it that he was a sex addict on top of it? Because I wholeheartedly believe, too, that people that have these personality disorders also very much are hypersexual. I mean, if you look at Gypsy Rose, she is hypersexual not only because of that, but because of her microdeletion, you know? That she blames on her mom, of all things to blame on your mother. Blame that on her too, bitch. Fuck's sake. But I'm going to leave this video here. This is, the start to my covering Chris Watts. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't just tell you things you've already heard a million times before. I hope you come back for more if I make more videos on him. I hope you understand I think he's a piece of shit asshole. Needs to be... he was attacked in prison. Did you know that? And I think it should happen again. Jeffrey Dahmer style, though, with a fucking mop handle. You sick bastard. I am fucking appalled at your behavior. Do you understand me? This is just sick. I can't believe it. I don't understand how anybody could even love you.